I was walking home in a grim state of mind. The first bout of drowsiness had already passed, but my body seemed to have switched to energy-saving mode, my brain being the first organ to suffer. I only noticed somebody sitting on the porch when I almost bumped into him. Or, rather, her. Thinking Kagome is a guy, that's hilarious. Kagome was sitting on my porch. What are you doing here? She opened her eyes wide, as if genuinely surprised by my reaction, the fact I was even here. Aren't you happy to see me? I wasn't expecting you. Let's go inside. Sure, logically, Ellie's guards wouldn't be watching the house when she wasn't there, but I still preferred not to risk it. My eyes were closing by themselves, and I was fighting the desperate desire to make some tea. I wanted to quickly find out what Kagome wanted from me and finally go to sleep. You have my full attention. She walked around the table, running her hand over its top, as if choosing a piece of furniture in a shop. There was something suspicious about that estimating gesture. We better not talk at school. I get that. Anyone who starts a conversation with me would get strange looks, like I'm contagious. You know, you're partially to blame for that. Oh, really? She raised an eyebrow and finally sat down. You did everything in your power to make them suspect you. Why are you surprised that when that's exactly what happened? No matter how long someone innocent pretends to be guilty, they don't become it. That's a nice bit of sophistry. I took my head in my hands and leaned heavily against the wall. Kind of. Kagome smiled mysteriously. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For not spending the rest of my life in prison. For the fact that they let my father go. I don't have anything to do with that. Better thank Ellie. And you were very friendly with her yesterday. You think so? If I hadn't been so tired, I most likely wouldn't have said any of this. After all, Ellie wasn't directly related to what had happened to Kagome and her father. I wonder how come they let you go so easily. So you really have nothing to do with it? She asked without a hint of anger, but I stayed silent. Maybe they got an order from above, or maybe... I don't know. I see. And that's it? What else? Sorry, I'm very tired. That's obvious enough. After all, you haven't been to school today. Your relationship with Kobayashi is developing, I can see. If you're going to... No, on the contrary, I want to say that I've thought about it a lot, and decided I haven't been fair to her. Thought a lot, have you? Prison's a good place to think, you know. How long did you spend there? 3 days? I smirked and walked across the room in order to not fall asleep standing up. And have to understand something. Something? We don't choose our family and upbringing. This inheritance stays with you forever and influences your entire life. Right, so? Maybe Kobayashi doesn't realize what she's doing. And what is she doing? In the end, Ellie had done Kagome no wrong, at least personally. Yumoto only frowned in response. You seem to be a bit fixated on Ellie. Forget it. She responded angrily and stood up. Everything's back to normal, thank God. I exclaimed joyfully, flinging my arms into the air. Kagome looked like she was about to explode at any second, but suddenly relaxed. You're right, that's not why I'm here. Maybe even such a short stay in prison didn't help my manners. You mean they treated you badly there? Not really. I expressed the desire to ask for details about the conditions in Japanese prisons, or detention facilities, or wherever she had been. Well, Nico-san, thank you again. Uh-huh, anytime. I grumbled without repeating that I had nothing to do with it. If there was anyone to thank here, it'd be Kobayashi-jun. As if he cared about some girl. Don't worry, I won't bother you. To at school. Very considerate of you. Before leaving my place, Kagome looked around as if she'd forgotten something important. Then I better go. Good night, Nico-san. Good night. For some reason, I saw Iwamoto to the gate. After she disappeared from sight, I felt like a weight had fallen from my shoulders. Finally, I could go to sleep. But before that, I long stared at the sky that, for some reason, looked unusually clear tonight. The stars particularly bright. I suddenly imagined myself standing at the bottom of the sea, looking up at the myriad of small fish swimming near the surface, glistening beautifully in the rays of the sun. Like stars. I went back inside, closed the door, and completely exhausted, dragged myself to my room. Still, her politeness, courtesy, and even friendliness were bizarre. Did she really believe I had helped her evade prison? Sure, to a degree my actions had helped indirectly, but I had zero desire to overestimate my own importance. Kagome remained a mystery girl, and no difficulties or strokes of misfortune seemed to be able to change her personality. Whether it was a good personality was another question entirely, but deep inside I envied her resilience. Okay, okay. Is it day? Is it the day? Is it time? Lately, the strings of my guitar had started to feel more and more pliant. A couple weeks ago, when I first started to play again, they would dig into my fingers like sharp, thin fishing lines. Yeah, I know that feeling. But now, every movement I made not only brought the right sounds out of the amplifier, but was accompanied by a pleasant response from the string. Way to go, Nick. Mitsuyoshi praised me. So much progress in such a short time. I'm impressed. He spoke genuinely, but for whatever reason to me, it still sounded like a routine compliment. Now with the concert just around the corner, Zed Fields definitely had no time to find a new bass player. Ishida wiped the sweat from his forehead, walked to us and smiled encouragingly. For once, I'm not worried about the rhythm section. Imagine if Yamada heard you right now. Both of them laughed while I didn't know how to react since I'd only since I'd only seen their former bass player once from a distance standing in the audience hall. Kai, stop embarrassing Nick. Look, he's all rad. Ellie sneaked up from behind and lightly elbowed me in the ribs. Ouch. I jumped in place and pretend. After that day, Ellie never offered me a pick-me-up again and seemingly wasn't taking any herself. Good! We love to see it. I wasn't completely sure about that though, so I kept a careful eye on her, noting any changes in her behavior. I didn't notice anything in particular. Gradually, my suspicions began to fade. Let's go one more time. Hell, maybe that's enough. Ishida pleaded tiredly. Even if he had run out of energy, it was definitely time to stop. Seems like someone's tired. All things in moderation. Nothing good will come out of exhausting ourselves. I was of the same opinion, even though I didn't feel that tired. Meanwhile, Ellie was beaming with energy. It seemed that if I came any closer, I'd get burned. I think Ishida's right too. Who else thinks that? She stared me down, and I, smiling idiotically, looked toward Tokyo Rider, who had just been standing behind the synthesizer, but wasn't there now. Ellie realized she'd started losing people to attrition, pursed her lips, and put the guitar away. That's all for today. Thanks, everyone. Ishida and Mitsuyoshi exhaled in relief. Can I take the bass home? I mean, I have my own. I just don't want to switch instruments too much before the concert. Of course you can. Ellie shrugged, puzzled. I've never been able to afford a guitar like it. So last rehearsal before the concert is the day after tomorrow? Yes, and we start at 2, don't forget. The commanding tone in Ellie's voice made her sound like a general giving the last orders to his troops before the final battle. We will. Alright then, see ya. Once Ishida and Mitsuyoshi left us alone, I began to leisurely collect the cables and other devices. That's it, Nick. She sat on Mitsuyoshi's stool behind the drums and tapped out a syncopation, with an expression like she was about to tell me where we were breaking up. That's it? I grew alert. You're a full-fledged member of Zed Fields now. Congrats. Ha, you meant that. What did you think? Never mind. Do I get some sort of medal? A membership card, maybe? Nothing like that. She threw her arms aside in disappointment, hitting a cymbal. I can only offer myself. She started to take off her clothes. By now I was used to Ellie's expressiveness and sensuality, so sex in an empty rehearsal studio didn't seem quite so unusual. We were walking home, hand in hand. I was carrying a case with the bass guitar on my shoulder, while Ellie had the bag with all the devices. The nights were getting longer, the starlight growing colder. I was warmed by the simple thought that next to me walked a girl who loved me. We seemed to be floating down the streets of Tokyo, enclosed in an impenetrable bubble protecting us from the cold and darkness. The last few days had been so peaceful that I had begun to forget the constant foreboding I had felt. I really wanted to believe that even I was meant to have some happiness. Do you believe in fate? Fate? Like the visual novel? Ellie thought a moment. I don't even know. If you mean that there's meaning to all our actions, yes I do. No, I meant more like destiny. The video game? Why are you so philosophical all of a sudden? Difficulties in life make you wonder if there's any meaning to all this. Yeah, found any? Not yet, but I'm still looking. Tell me when you do. We approached home. I no longer felt deeply awkward when Ellie called it our home. Except that today, Kagome was once again sitting on the porch of our home. Nico-san, Kobayashi-san. When she saw us, she immediately stood up and smiled. Yamada-san. Ellie greeted her coldly, not even looking too surprised to see her there. I just came to give Nico-san some papers for our Wednesday test. She took some papers out of her bag. I'm still our class representative, remember? Is that urgent? But you weren't at school yesterday. Kagome looked genuinely surprised, like sitting at the door of a classmate's house and waiting for him on a Saturday evening was totally normal. Have you been spying on us? Niko-san and I are in the same class, she replied confidently. Of course, Iwamoto used to act weirdly before, but she'd always been aggressive rather than showing excessive and inappropriate interest in her classmates' academic achievements. Niko-san and I are very grateful, Ellie said sarcastically and squeezed my hand tighter. I won't bother you two anymore. Have a nice evening. She left the papers on the porch and passed us by with a strange smile on her face. What was that? After holding a pretty long pause, Ellie jumped away from me and stomped her foot and sternly looked me in the eye. Are you asking me? She came to you, brought papers for your Wednesday test, she mocked Iwamoto. I swear I know just as much about this as you do. Ellie's jealousy was understandable and explainable, but I couldn't even imagine what Kagome really wanted. I only knew one thing. She had something on her mind. I'm just as angry as you are. Tja, and what are you angry at? Ellie, for God's sakes, we spend almost 24 hours a day together. When would I? She thought about it. Fine, I forgive you this time. But I'll be watching you. We entered our home, accompanied by the cold whisper of the stars, leaving Ellie's guards to freeze in the car around the corner. Okay, 10/12, so this is the day of the final rehearsal. The day after tomorrow, yeah. The final rehearsal. There we go. Bam, bam, bam. One of our songs had a particularly complicated bass part that I just couldn't get the hang of. Especially the middle of it, when I had to run my left hand up and down the neck like a virtuoso. We can just play the eighth notes on the open strings? I asked half-jokingly. The rest of the band looked at me like I just committed blasphemy. Give it to me. I took my bass and effortlessly played the bridge I'd failed time and time again. It's a shame you can't play multiple instruments at the same time. Nick, enough already. Just watch what I do and repeat it. She frowned and gave the bass back to me. Just. Sometimes it seemed to me that among the members of Zed Fields, I was the most relaxed about music. Except probably for Tokyo Rider. Yeah, nothing phases Tokyo Rider. But understanding when he was and wasn't serious wasn't an easy task in general. And it wasn't even about the lack of experience. Music was still mostly just a hobby for me, while for them it was an important, maybe even integral part of their lives. I'll try. In reality, Ellie's demonstration hadn't helped at all. To the contrary, the last bits of my confidence evaporated without a trace. When a clown at a child's party juggles 10 balls at once, then offers to teach you, a 6-year-old, to do the same, it's met with a smile. Meanwhile, I didn't just feel like a clown, but an entire circus, in a burnt-out building with no audience. Maybe you'd have it easier with the 5-string bass, Isha said thoughtfully. Thanks, but I'd like to get a handle on 4 first. To be honest, I'd always believed that the fewer strings there were, the better. Honestly, I'm in the same camp. That's why I eventually picked up a bass. Because, like, my homemate bought a fucking 8-string guitar, which is your standard 6-string, but with then 2 lower strings on it. And he let me play that one time, and all I did was just mess with the top 2 low strings, and I'm like, you know what, if I just had just low strings, I could have fun with this. And I realized, oh wait, that's just a bass. And that's why I love my bass now. It's just 4 strings. I love it. 5 strings? Nah. Easy. Chill. Calm down. Whoa. Whoa. Alright. 4 strings. Now we're talking. Alright, let's try it again. 1. 1. Mitsushi started to count. I'm pretty sure she goes 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1, 1, 1, 1. But hey, what do I know, right? All in all, I could hit the right notes and didn't go too far out of line, but still felt to me like my parts were recorded separately, then played on a tape. The others played calmly, occasionally bringing passion and improvisation to their music, while I was putting my all into just not screwing up. Sure, bass wasn't the leading instrument, maybe a mistake or two wouldn't go unnoticed. But without a well-played rhythm section, rock music loses a good half of its feeling. Besides, I simply felt ashamed in front of the other guys. The strangest thing was, at first I used to think that I was doing pretty great. The longer we practiced, the more I realized I was years and years behind my band members in terms of skill. When we finished, I exhausted, put the bass away and slid down against the wall. Do we really have to work ourselves to death right before the concert? You do that every time? Well, yeah, you gotta get that shit down pat, right? Rehearsals leading up to it, fine, but that final rehearsal, where it's like, it's now or never, you gotta make sure you gotta give that shit your all, homie. I'm not addressing anyone in particular. Actually, no, but we're under special circumstances right now. As in me? Isha smiled apologetically. It's fine, I get it. Thank you guys. And gal. Hell smirk. Ellie grinned and played a couple of chords from American Woman. Hell yeah. Alright, wish you all good sleep. Mitsushi stood up from behind the drums and tiredly looked over the room, his gaze stopping first on me and then Ellie. The hint, although not completely obvious, was inappropriate. He immediately caught himself. I, for one, will need at least 8 hours of healthy sleep. Then we meet tomorrow at 6 in front of the club. I'll be there. I very much hope so. Oh, I know Tokyo Rider will be there. As usual, the two of us left the rehearsal studio last. So let's go home? I sounded unsure, but Ellie didn't seem to have paid any attention. No, I can't make it today. Grandpa wants to talk about something, so I'll have to stay at my place. Talk? About what? Don't worry, we aren't going to discuss any evil schemes. She frowned. Promise? Promise. Ellie kissed me goodbye, though somewhat coldly. Ooh. Or was it just my imagination? Ooh. I was walking home, feeling somehow relieved. I could really use some good sleep, which would be a lot harder to get with Ellie in the same bed as me. There were a couple of blocks left before I reached home, but I wasn't really paying attention deep in my own thoughts, so it took some time for me to hear someone calling me. San! Nico-san! Kiyoma was walking next to me within arm's reach and smiling. Creepy. Nico-san, good evening. Evening, you little fucking gremlin. Seemed that we'd been seeing each other outside of school too often lately. Going home? Going home. And you? I asked only out of politeness. I had something to do after class, so I had to stay for a while. I see. Unless Kagome was going to walk all the way to a restaurant, she'd chosen a bad route. It would have been much easier to take a train at the nearest station from the school. Unless, of course, it was intentional. Yeah, no shit. Iwamura-san, I said with pointed politeness. I don't want to offend you, but recently we seem to be meeting each other too often. Are you afraid that Kobayashi will be jealous? She squinted cunningly. That too, but most importantly, I have the feeling you need something from me. I've already told you. I just want to thank you for saving my father and helping me. You've already done that, I said carefully. She suddenly paused for a moment. But it's always nicer when gratitude reaches the recipient, so to speak. I can only say once again that I had nothing to do with what happened, although I'm glad everything ended well. Come on, don't be modest. She suddenly laughed and jabbed me lightly with her elbow. I definitely didn't expect that from you, Omura. Do I look like a modest person? Right now? Yes. We stopped at an intersection. Alright, see you tomorrow then. She said happily and headed for the nearest station. The hell was that? Yeah, even I'm kind of weirded out. Like, I love Kagome, but even I'm kind of like, what you plotting there, huh? I returned home, made dinner, but I had no appetite whatsoever. I just couldn't get Kagome's strange behavior out of my mind. I was sure she'd never did anything without a purpose, and maintaining a friendship with another person wasn't her style. I wonder if she ever had friends. Besides, I was scared of how Ellie might react. I didn't want to give her the slightest reason for pointless jealousy, but at the same time, I couldn't do anything about Kagome. What, was I supposed to tell her to fuck off? And I had an important concert tomorrow. My fingers hurt and my shoulder ached from the guitar strap. I went to bed around 10, but couldn't fall asleep until late in the night, constantly running through scenarios of me screwing up my first and apparently last stage appearance. Now we're gonna kill the shit. We're gonna kill the shit, don't worry about it. We got this. Have some goddamn faith. Kagome, don't fuck this up. I don't know what you're scheming, little homie, but don't do it. It's probably a good thing that Ellie and I met right after school and went to the club together. Otherwise, I would have died of anxiety. Knack, you look so pale. She came closer and gently touched my forehead. The guitars, our equipment, and several bags of stuff lay against the wall. All of it had been brought by her guards, which itself looked pretty weird. Hey boys, the other members appeared soon enough. Alright, so we go second, a bit after 7. Let's get inside then. Sound guy asked us not to be late for the sound check. My bass sounded completely different on stage compared to our rehearsal studio. Different even from how I remembered hearing it from the hall of the same club. I told Ishida about it, but he just shrugged. Don't worry, it's normal. You don't want them to turn the speakers on us so we go deaf, right? I guess not. It's much easier to get myself together than I'd expected. Despite the jittering, my fingers remembered each part, sometimes seemed to start playing all on their own, bypassing my mind. We waited in the dressing room until the first band finished the introduction, then finally it was time for Zed Fields to take the stage. Don't worry, Nick. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm not worried. Alright, I am, but I'm fine. For luck. She kissed me lightly and ran ahead. There were way more people in the hall than I'd thought, and the club seemed to have grown in all three dimensions, the far end having floated off somewhere into the distance beyond the haze of cigarette smoke. The audience was looking at us impatiently, not having heard what they'd expected from the first band. The sounds were dragging on. Ellie was having issues with her microphone. But finally, she sorted it all out and loudly greeted the hall. Hello, everyone. I hope this will be a fun evening for you all. Where is Zed Fields? As she started the count, and the music took over my entire being. What I felt during rehearsal and up on stage were like two different entire states of matter. Back there, I'd been something hard, inert, highly resistant to any interaction, and I had to put tremendous effort into every note I played. But here, I seemed to have cast off my physical self. They added vocals to one of... Gotta pay attention to the lyrics. Okay. 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 It's interesting to finally have some vocals to a song we've been hearing for so long. I like it. And the music flowed by itself. Just a single glance at the bass was enough to know what sound it was going to make next. Yeah, low. I looked at Ellie. She transformed completely. Okay. Ooh. I've been trying to really pay attention to the lyrics here. The girl with the guitar looked like a stranger to me, radiating enough energy to illuminate the hall better than any stage light in the world. Coming closer, I could feel the heat coming off her. I found myself thinking that for a while, I'd been paying zero attention to my bass, simply playing, immersed in the music. When the first song came to its end, and the club gave us a moderate round of applause. Thank you! Ellie shouted into the microphone, and we started the next song without a pause. Ishida wasn't the most expressive guitarist in the world, but he still shook his head to the beat in all the right places. Speaking of guitar, that was great timing. Okay. Twirling and bouncing around. Meanwhile, I just stood still and tried to play my part as correctly as possible. Eventually I got bored of that. I slowly approached Ishida and leaned forward together with the bass. He understood my silent request and immediately began swaying back and forth, waving his guitar like a paddle. He sounded like this at concerts with Western rock bands, but just a moment earlier I would have never imagined trying it. The feeling of lightedness and freedom was intoxicating. We started playing the third track, and all my senses sharpened. I could feel the strings vibrating, see the flashes of the drum beats, smell the guitar solo. Sweat ran down my forehead and got in my eyes, but I didn't care. My perception was so amplified that I felt every note with my spinal cord. At the same time, I only now realized that I had long stopped looking at the audience. In the entire universe, there was only the stage and the other 4 people standing on it. We were performing for the planets, flying through the clusters of galaxies, sailing over waves of dark matter, racing against background radiation. The fourth piece was the song that I could never imagine well enough when we'd practice it, so I had to return to Earth to focus on my playing. To my surprise, my fingers danced up and down the neck, effortlessly, like the tentacles of an octopus.